All right, everybody, welcome back to another market update. This time we're doing September of 2023. For those of you first joining us, my name's Tom Moore. I do one of these once a month, pretty much always on the 5th. And the channel Living in Halifax, which is my YouTube channel. We do a lot of content on Halifax stuff, whether it's neighborhoods, generally neighborhoods, but also there's some other content on there which you may find useful. But as always, for the first, when we go through this, we're going to go through the first slide a little slower, and then you can kind of skip along the bottom. On the bottom of YouTube there, it should kind of have every, I guess, area listed that we go over. So if there's a certain area that you're focusing on, whether it's buying or selling, then check that out, but be sure you're sticking around for the first one. All right, let's hop into it here. Okay, so as always, this is kind of our, this is Bedford. So this is going to be the first area we're going to be doing. And the first slide of these two is the area that we're pulling the data from. So total sales and days on market. As you can see, we've got two numbers for each one of those categories. The first, in this case for total sales, we've got 34 and 29. So 34 would be August, 29 would be September. And then days on market, 16 would be August, 11 would be September. Total sales, obviously pretty explanatory. How many sales occurred. Days on market is how long on average that property stayed on the market before it went pending. So very, very quick moving market. So more of a seller's market. I mean, we still technically are in a seller's market because of a lack of inventory, but 5-6 days, that's very, very speedy. That's almost guaranteed that we're having multiple offers. And then as we get into, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever it may be, then there's usually a correlation there between time on market and then percentage of list price to sale price. So as you can see down here, 2 down, sale price to list price percentage. I'll go back to that other one in a second, but so let's say the house was listed for $100 in the month of September. It sold for $97.04. We'll see this go above 100 when we're in multiple offer situations, especially that usually correlates with it being a shorter time on market period and basically enough traffic around there. Heading back up there, showings per listing and new listing. So showings per listing shows us how many families, how many groups are going through there on average before they have an accepted offer. And then new listings is obviously self-explanatory there. Single family monthly comparison. Month of August, average sale price was $655,000, and then the month of September we saw $586,000 price per square foot. Self-explanatory there. 283 in August, 267 in September. Sorry, I'm doing this in my home office, and as you can probably hear, there's a bit of traffic outside. Condo monthly comparison, 400 in the month of August, 457 in the month of September. And then price per square foot, 379 in August, 378 in September. Again, with these numbers, these monthly comparisons for pricing and whatnot, generally these neighborhoods that we're pulling data from are quite large, and there's going to be some nice houses in the neighborhoods, and there's going to be some stuff that's a little cheaper, but this is to give you an idea for the price point. Obviously, those people that live in Halifax know that Bedford tends to be a higher priced area. In fact, an average sale price of $586,000 for a home is very cheap for those of you who've been watching this for a while. But generally, Bedford kind of matches the west end of Halifax, 700,000 or so. But there's some very nice homes in Bedford that would be in the million range, and there's some stuff, as you can see here, that it's obviously a little bit lower. Condos, Bedford's not pulling a ton of condos. They've got the area kind of up on Larry Utek, and then the area right on kind of the bottom of the basin. But this is the data that we're pulling from. Okay, let's hop into Bridgewater. Again, for the first people joining us, this is kind of an hour and 15 away on a mostly divided highway. I was actually down there a couple of weeks ago filming, and I realized that it's not all divided highway, as I've probably been saying on here. Whoopsie. Total sales and days on market. 14 and 5. So basically it's divided most of the way down, but there are parts that are not divided. Total sales and days on market, we saw pretty big drop. Total sales to 5, days on market was 6. So that's pretty speedy. And funny enough, in this case, we didn't see a list price percentage, but there's less buyers in Bridgewater. It's a specific kind of community where people are buying. So, you know, this is a bit of an outlier generally when we're talking about this data. Showings per listing and new listing showing per listing was 4.8. New listings stayed the same at 14. Sale price to list price percentage. Again, we saw a pretty steep drop there to 92.3%. So again, for people looking for a little logic here, if I'm an agent listing a house, then there is, sorry, there's somebody just walked by with a crazy inappropriate shirt on outside. But basically, if you think about it, let's say we were listing your house and we're not holding offers and it goes after 6 days. The mindset when you're listing generally tends to be that the highest offer is going to be, or the first offer is going to be the highest offer, right? And then as time goes on, the listing gets cold, or people start to think that something's wrong with it, whatever it may be. So in this case, where we had a short days on market amount, and we see that the list price percentage is at 92.3%, which is actually very low. Something occurred there. Either A, the agent gave their client bad advice, and told them to accept something that was way under ask, or B, the agent might have convinced the client that their house was worth more or something, or maybe the client was convinced that their house was worth more and the agent was like, sure, we'll list at that. But if it's that short of days on market and we're getting a similar list price percentage, that generally means that something broke down there in the listing process to the detriment of the seller. But I mean, you know, there was 5 sales, so it could have happened. That's a pretty low list price per sale price there. But yeah, anyways, that's my little rant on that. Single family monthly comparison, we saw a drop of about 100 grand to 290,000. And price per square foot, we saw a pretty significant drop from 260 down to 215. Clayton Park and Rockingham area just outside of the peninsula. Total sales and days on market, 21 and 9 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing is 9.7 and 32. Sale price to list price percentage, we saw a drop a percentage point to 100.3%. And single family monthly comparison, we saw a uptick of 25,000 to 616,000. Price per square foot for the single families, we saw a decrease from 274 to 266. And condo monthly comparison, we saw a decrease of about 5,000 down to 360,000. Price per square foot went from 352 to 314. We're going to start seeing as we creep into the fall, creep into the winter. I've been saying this. The bell curve is starting to go down in terms of the new listings coming on. And for some reason, Clayton Park, I think this happened last year, where overall what we see is we see that peak in the like late summer, well, actually midsummer, and then we see it come down. But Clayton Park, for some reason, this time of year, people like to list in the fall. So most of the other stuff as we go into winter, as we, hitting that base of the bell curve, basically at the end of December, early January, we will still continue to see that. But it's funny here where in Clayton Park, it's a bit of an outlier where we've got more listings, we've got more people going through, and we've got, more sales than the previous month. So yeah, that's a little hard to rationalize there, but you're always going to find outliers in any data sets. Okay, Cole Harbour, home to Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon. Sidney Crosby was just here to play a hockey game, which is kind of cool. Total sales and days on market, 22 and 7 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing. So a slight drop. New listing 24. So again, a little bit more there compared to August. Sale price to list price percentage, we saw 102.5%, down basically a percentage point. And single family monthly comparison, we saw a slight uptick of about 10 grand 12 grand to 477,000. Sorry, 447,000 up from 433,000. Price per square foot basically stayed the same at 271. Okay, Dartmouth, one of the larger areas we're pulling from here. Total sales and days on market, we saw total sales go up to 48 from 42. We saw days on market drop 1 day. So we got a speed. This is a speedy market right here. Dartmouth for the month of September went from 6 to 5. Showings per listing and new listing. We saw 8.4 and 78 for new listings. So more. Again, this is funny how it's seeming like we're gaining a little speed here as we look over the data. In September comparing to August. Sale price to list price percentage, 101.4%. Single family monthly comparison, 505. We're seeing a drop to 461,000. Price per square foot was at 279, went up to 286. Condo monthly comparison was at 470,000. Now it's at 493,000. And the price per square foot on the condos was 377, went way up to 487. So something that has been asked to me a little bit recently is, our properties losing their value? Like, what's going on here, right? And I mean, every area and every type of house and every purchase is going to be different. But you know, I was doing a couple of market analysis on properties that have been purchased over a year ago. And one thing I noticed was that, you know, I was looking at about, I'd say, 15 or 20 transactions, and really only 2 of them that I was taking a look at were properties that probably hadn't regained their growth or regained their value when they were purchased a year or 2 years ago. So generally we're seeing that, you know, again, this is me looking at the data that I was looking at. There's going to be instances where there is a bit of a loss, but that's, you know, the rates are going up, which is forcing things going on one way in terms of the decrease, I guess. But the issue is we still have a lot of population growth in the country as a whole, and we don't have a lot of building going on to keep up with that growth. So, you know, if you take a drive through any big Canadian city right now, you're seeing those tents out there, and yeah, sure, there's a percentage of that is related to you know, certain other factors, whether it's mental health or addictions or whatever. But there's actually, you know, you drive by and you take a look at some people there, and they don't seem like they're in you know, any crazy state. And the other crazy thing is that Halifax has the lowest vacancy rates in terms of rentals across the country. So it's like, we definitely have a portion of the population there that is homeless, not due to mental health and not due to addiction. So that's a little spooky on that side of things, but and that's above my pay grade. Total sales and days on market, 3 was in the month of August, 1 in September. Days on market, we had a pretty big drop from 12 to 4, so that flew off the shelf very quick. Showings per listing and new listing saw 3.9 and 10 respectively. Quite a few new listings. Jeez. Sale price to list price percentage, 98.8%. So, you know, I'm a little surprised at that. Usually if something's going in 4 days, they're offering at ask, but if the seller's happy, then the seller's happy, right? Condo monthly comparison, 790,000. And originally it was at 625,000. So quite a big uptick there. Price per square foot, we saw it at 724, went up to 836. In downtown, you're going to get a pretty big mix of condos, right? And we're only pulling from condos there because there's just not enough single families to pull from. Total sales and days on market, 14 and 7 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing, 4.5 and 17. Sale price to list price percentage, 100.7%. Single family monthly comparison, we saw 425,000 up from 342,000. And price per square foot, we saw it at 276 in August, up to 283 in September. Okay, Eastern Shore and Lawrencetown. Not a ton of movement out here, and I'm that this time of the year, it's going to start slowing down even more. I don't think we did this in the fall of last year. I think this was a spring add-on, maybe. But, you know, it's an alternate cottage country, right? Total sales and days on market, 9 and 5 respectively. Although there are people that will commute from out there. I mean, it's not that far. It's probably 45 minutes to downtown Halifax with no traffic, if that 40. Certain parts, obviously, certain parts are longer. Showings per listing and new listing, we saw 3.8 and 15 respectively. Sale price to list price percentage, 97.3%. Pretty big drop from 102.2%. And then single family monthly comparison was actually up to 405,000. Price per square foot was at 258. It's now at 259, up $1. Wow. Okay, Enfield. A lot of building going out here. I was talking to one of my banking buddies there last night. He does commercial stuff, and you know, the Shaw, I think it's the Shaw Group, is building a massive. They're prepping to lay the foundation for a massive development out there on the new exit of Enfield. Total sales and days on market, 19 and 20 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing is 4.3 and 27 respectively. Both a little bit of a decrease there. Sale price to list price percentage, 96.7%, excuse me. Single family month comparison, 550 and in the month of August, and it's down in the month of September to 470,000. Price per square foot, we saw a slight decrease from 265 to 229. Okay, Fall River, again, another nice little lakeside community, big lots. Recently did a little neighborhood spotlight on Fall River. So that's interesting. If you're not from here, you don't know what Fall River is, then check out the channel. Total sales and days on market, 6 and 20 respectively. Pretty big uptick in the days on market there from 3. Showings per listing and new listing, we saw uptick again, 4.4 to 8.1. So that, you know, kind of jives in a different way where it's sitting a little bit longer. And so therefore it gives more people more time to get through. New listings was at 6. Now it's at 26. Holy smokes, that's a big uptick. Sale price to list price percentage, 98.8%. Single family monthly comparison, 630,000 was in the month of August, 785,000 in the month of September. Price per square foot was at 238. Now it's at 273. So just scheming here, hypothesizing. You know, something that obviously I'm sure you've heard is a lot of people are going to be coming up to their mortgage renewal, right? So for those of you maybe unfamiliar with mortgages, there's usually kind of 2 ways you go about it. You either get a fixed, which is a rate that is kind of locked in for a designated amount of years, can be in certain cases 1 year. Usually it's on the high side, or in Canada, the maximum you can get is a 5-year fixed, right? So let's say I bought a house back in 2018 or whatever it was, and my rate was at, you know, I don't even know what it was at back then. Maybe it was like 2.5% or 3 or something like that. Now I've got to re-up, got to renegotiate. In that case, I've got to go back to the bank, get a new rate figured out, and go in at whatever the rates are now, right? So when I re-up, I've got to take a look. I might be adding 2-3 percentage points on top of what I originally had budgeted 5 years ago, on top of my mortgage now. And so some people are seeing that coming down the pipeline. Some people are experiencing that when they have to go do that. And all of a sudden, if you're like, geez, I mean, we can't afford this, then now we're going to start seeing the crunch. Now, this is hard for me. This is, you know, what the Bank of Canada, CMHC, all those other big guys try to figure out is like, okay, well, how is this going to affect things? The other interesting thing too is somebody who's owned their house for years, if they haven't paid it off, right? They also, even though they didn't buy during the pandemic when, you know, whatever, 2019, 2020 was like, whatever, 1.5%. They might not have gotten that then, but people who bought their house 10 years ago and haven't paid it off, they're still in this process. And right now the rates are very high. So there's certain individuals who might be stuck in this situation where it's like, well, we didn't get them at, like, they might have re-upped during the pandemic, right? Where they were like, okay, let's try to refi now for whatever reason. I know some of this mortgage talk can bog people down, but basically the point I'm trying to get across here is a segment of the population purchased a house with a low rate. And now if they re-up, they've got a higher rate. In some case, double, in some case, more than double their rate. And if they haven't been able to budget for that or plan for that, then you get into this situation where it's like, geez, we can't afford this. We can't afford to pay a $4,000 mortgage a month or whatever it is, right? And then you get pushed into the market. Now, people go, oh my God, that's going to make the market crash. Now, the tricky thing here is that there is still so many people looking to purchase that it's hard to predict, right? Do the numbers add up? If you've got such a supply issue here, it's like, are there people that are willing to kind of keep those prices up? Usually the top part of the market is the one that's going to suffer the most when these things happen, right? Because there's less people shopping at the top, there's a lot more people shopping below, and when people decide they don't want to be up here, they go down to the next level, and so on and so forth. So anyways, Hammonds Plains of Lucasville. Total sales in days on market, 20 and 15. Was at 20. Total sales were at 20 in August, 15 in September. Days on market, so a big increase from 11 to 28. Showings per listing and new listings. Showings per listing was at 5, new listings 16. A little drop there. So price to list price percentage, we saw slight uptick to 99.2%. Single family month comparison, we saw 796 in August, 625 in September. Price per square foot, 267 in August, 285 in September. All right, the NE, the North End. They had a pretty big drop off here. Again, more new listings. Yeah, it is odd. A little hard to make sense of, if I'm being perfectly honest. Total sales in days on market, 13 and 6 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing, we saw 5.6 showings per listing, so basically cut in half from the 10.9 in August. New listings, we also saw double, so from 14 to 28. Sale price to list price percentage, 100%. Single family monthly comparison was at 725, now it's at 437. Price per square foot, we saw 403 in August, now it's down to 374. Condo monthly comparison was at 518, it's now down to 400. Price per square foot was at 656, now it's at 434. You know, interesting. Single family, Sackville Beaverbank. Total sales in days on market, 46 and 34. Sorry, folks. I'm getting distracted by these numbers are kind of weirding me out here. The fact that we're in September and there seems to be these climbs across the board. When I go through and do these, I kind of go on like autopilot. I'm just checking everything, plugging them in, and then as I go through these, I read them, and I kind of dictate. I figure out what's going on in real time. So these numbers are just they're a little odd. Where again, like if I was to show you the graph, literally for the last however many years, maybe a little bit different during that craziness in COVID, but it's literally goes like this: up, June, July. It's at the top, and then it starts going back down. And here we're seeing this in several areas, an uptick in new listings compared to the previous month. So there is definitely fear in the market. Anyways, we'll have to see how it plays out. Total sales in days on market, 46 in August, 34 in September. Days on market, we saw 6 and 7, so a week for days on market. Showings per listing and new listings, we saw 7 for showings per listing, and new listings we saw again an uptick of about 10 to 63. Sale price to list price percentage, 103% in August, 102.5% in. Yeah, it's crazy. Sackville, it's just like it's always over asking out there, even though the single family monthly comparison seems to be higher than a couple other areas. Like what, Bedford was 525 or something like that. And the North End is 437. Yeah. Odd. Price per square foot. What do we got there? Okay, yeah, that makes a bit more sense. Right. Yeah. So price per square foot, you're getting a bigger house in Sackville. But still, usually we don't necessarily see that, right? Price per square foot, 268 in August, 245 in September. Spryfield and Armdale. Total sales and days on market, 23 and 9 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing, 7.1 and 38 respectively. There we are again. Sale price to list price percentage, 102.5% and 101.3%. So slight decrease. Like, I'm not doing these backwards. That's what, I feel like I'm like reading the data backwards. Single family monthly comparison, 545. 545,000 in the month of August, 510,000 month of September. Price per square foot, we saw it drop too, 310 to 273. Condo monthly comparison, we had that crazy weird sale down on the Arm, which was a one-off. They've got those places down in Spinnaker Drive area. And so that was an outlier, obviously. And then 472, which is kind of more normalized. Price per square foot, 386 in August and 379. So that one, yeah, it's that condo that I'm talking about. They're the ones that are like on the water. There's obviously a lot of condos that go for sale in Spinnaker, but must have been pretty big. This price per square foot didn't drop that much, eh? Okay, so then I get some big numbers here. Total sales and days on market, 16 going down to 8 in the month of, so halved basically. Days on market, we saw 21 going down to 12. So a little bit of a speed up at a high price range. Showings per listing and new listing, again, or new listings in September. This one makes sense because the homes are obviously much more expensive. So you'd think that with certain rates, with certain new budgeting people are doing, with a lot of that, we would see an uptick. And I actually saw a story or whatever, it was either on TikTok or on Instagram or something like that. But some of these very nice neighborhoods in Toronto, for instance, we're seeing a big uptick in their luxury listings. So, you know, it makes sense at that higher end of the spectrum when, you know, a percentage point can be a lot more than what it is with an individual who's got a 400 and something $1,000 home versus somebody who's got a, you know, $1.3 million mortgage, right? So it's just, that does make sense to me. Sale price to list price percentage, 96.3 and 97.9. So a little bit of an uptick there. Single family monthly comparison, 1.34 in August, 1.475 in September. Price per square foot, so a pretty big decrease from 455 down to 346. And the monthly condo comparison dropped 110K from 570,000 to 460,000. Price per square foot was 711, going down to 562 per square foot. That doesn't spook me too much, just because South End has that Goresbrook building, which moves a lot of weight, but the price per square foot is much higher because it's smaller, newer units. So whenever, you know, whenever we see stuff go firm in there, gets sold in the Goresbrook, usually it messes up that stuff. That okay. South Shore stats, they are the cottage country. Total sales and days on market, we saw 15 total sales. Days on market was 42. Showings per listing and new listing. Here's a bit of normalcy. Okay, showings per listing was 3, which is still pretty quick actually. Just fewer buyers, especially at the end of summer, shopping around on the South Shore, right? People probably are shopping for cottages maybe in like March, April, May. They're not really shopping for cottages in July, August. or September. New listings, we saw 20 new listings. Sale price to list price percentage, slight uptick to 95.8%. Single family monthly comparison was at 473, went up to 720, probably a waterfront property or a few. Price per square foot, we saw 294 go up to 413. Okay, Sydney, Nova Scotia. Metropolis of Cape Breton. Total sales and days on market, 22 and 6 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing was 7.5 and 26 new. Okay, so there's another uptick. So price to list price percentage, we saw decrease about 1.5% to 102.1%. Single family month comparison was at 290. It's at 287. So slight drop. And then the price per square foot ticked up about $9 to $180. Okay, Tantallon, Hubley. It's a bit of a longer one. And it's just because I've been chatting about some of the stuff going on here. Total sales and days on market. 7 was 7 in August, 8 in September. Days on market, we saw a big decrease there from 23 to 5. Showings per listing, we saw it at basically 3, so cut in half from August. And then the new listings, we saw a slight uptick from 11 to 13. Sale price to list price percentage, 100% even, a little uptick there. And the single family cost comparison went up from 580,000 to 660,000. Sale price price per square foot went down from $273 to $250. Timberlea, Beechville. Total sales and days on market, 7 and 24 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing was 4.2, so down 1%, well, basically 1.4, and then new listings down 13 to 10. Sale price to list price percentage was at 102.4, now it's at 96.2. Pretty steep decrease there. Single family monthly comparison, wow, I was expecting it to be a high priced home on Brunello or something like that, but single family monthly comparison was at 545 and went down to 309, so that's pretty steep. So some cheaper inventory being sold there at a discount, or under ask, I should say. Price per square foot was at 285. It's now 198. Truro stats. Okay, Truro, Nova Scotia. Again, this is actually an hour on a divided highway. One of Nova Scotia's. This is kind of Nova Scotia's second biggest area, I believe, and then Sydney, and then I think Yarmouth would be number 4. Total sales and days on market, 22 and 12 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing, 6.7 and 11 respectively. Sale price to list price percentage, we saw an uptick of about 2% to 98.9. Excuse me. Single family month comparison was at 307. It's at 269 now. And then the price per square foot dropped $6 to $192. West End Halifax, last couple here, folks. West End Halifax. Total sales and days on market, 8 and 15 respectively. Okay. Showings per listing and new listing, 5.1 and 13 respectively. Okay. Sale price to list price percentage, 97.5%. Okay. Single family monthly comparison, something big sold there, or a couple big guys. Was at basically 650,000. It's up to 940,000. But you can find those, right? Bigger property or bigger house, updated, fully updated in the West End. People like the West End. If you can walk to Quinpool or walk downtown or something like that, people love those houses. And some of them are beautiful, right? Little tiny bit of a smaller lot, obviously, than you might find in the South End, but who knows? Price per square foot, it was $391. Now it's at $493. So that's pretty expensive price per square foot. So I'm sure it had a few had some nice updates. Okay, Windsor, Nova Scotia. Let me just. Okay, so this is again. This is divided highway all the way, which is nice. So Bridgewater is not divided highway all the way, although they are putting in new highway infrastructure down there. Total sales and days on market, 14 and 9 respectively. Showings per listing and new listing at 3.8 and 17. Sale price to list price percentage, 100%. In single family monthly comparison, we saw a little bit of an uptick by about 10 grand to 405,000. And then the price per square foot was brought up from $227 to $270 per square foot. All right, folks. Well, in summary, I mean, obviously there's some interesting stats that counter the norm, right? We're seeing in September, which is post-summer, some stats that point away from that historic bell curve, which shows us the high in midsummer, June, July, and then a low in December, January. Now, September, it may be a bit of a weird one where, maybe some people had flooding in their homes. Although in a lot of those areas, there wasn't much flooding, but, rates, obviously, if I'm going to point the finger at anything that's making people sell, it's rates. They're worried about their re-up on their mortgage. They're, worried that the market is unsure of itself right now. And so they want to sell before they foresee a large push from other sellers trying to do the same thing. They're basically first two movers, right? The reason that I say that is that because, again, historically, this does not happen where we are coming out of August and getting more listings in September. Usually we slowly see it go down from June, right? Sorry, from July. So July is, let's say July's high, say 50 in July, 40 in August, 30. I mean, that's me just making up numbers, but that you get the idea. So it is interesting to see that. We'll have to see what happens in October. I'll be shocked if that continues. However, maybe I won't be shocked, right? I think the other thing too to keep in mind is that there's still those list price percentage numbers are still quite high. And when you do take a look at a market analysis from a house that was bought a year ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they're generally holding their weight, or even gaining equity, right? So there's a lot of moving parts. The house is not on fire yet. And again, we've just accepted so much immigration over the last little while. Now, a lot of these people can't buy houses necessarily, or they're coming up on their 2 year, whatever it may be. But that kind of influx of that population will affect the market, whether it's the rental market, which is already obviously crazy, or the purchasing market. So we'll have to wait and see. But other than that, I hope you folks have a great rest of your day, and we'll be in touch. See you in the next video. Have a great day.